work cut out of it, cut out for me. Alan asked me to come here today to talk to you about NICS system and background checks. I know that we've got a wide range of individuals here from a number of states. If your pistol permit contains a NICS check and that substitutes, and you have an alternate permit that you use to buy a gun, can you raise your hand? And I understand that that's the case here in Illinois, is that correct? Okay, your NICS check on your CCW lets you go into a gun shop and buy a gun? No. Your Ford card? Okay. That's interesting. In Alabama, we recently passed some significant legislation where we are well on the road to being essentially where you are now with our CCW permits. Hopefully, in the future, in Alabama, we will be able to walk into a gun shop and purchase a gun, and the NICS check on our 5-year pistol permit will serve as the NICS check for all purposes. That's a feature of the Brady system that we, as the actual, and it was gun owners that designed the NICS system. This was back, during the Brady Act, was we came up with NICS. We wanted certain features in a background check system. Number one, we didn't want a 7 to 10 day delay. We wanted to be able to walk in, have the check done, and walk out with our gun the same day. Well, we got that. Well, there were some other features that was added into the NICS. And so far, only a couple of states have taken advantage of some of the features of the NICS system, including your permit serving as your NICS check whenever you go to buy a weapon. Very few states are actually doing it. One of the things that I would want to encourage each of the states to do is to look at that. Get your state certified where the NICS check on your permit serves as your NICS check when you buy a weapon. You'll still have to fill out a 4473, but that's as far as the knowledge of the sales transaction goes. When we do this, one of the things that we're doing is we're taking away from Mr. Blomberg and Mothers Demand Action, we're taking away one of their most significant arguments, and that is for comprehensive background checks. Except they want to take it too many steps too far. The other thing that we need to look at is we need to look at a system to deal with individual sales. And here's the reason why I'm going to tell you that. Recently, the Bureau of Justice Statistics did a survey of 400,000 convicted felons who were released from prison in 1 year. They surveyed them for 5 years. 70% of them reoffended. 400,000. 70% of them reoffended. The NICS system to date has stopped gun purchases by over 600,000 felons. Over 600,000. Last year, it was 66,000. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm willing to give them a mulligan for lying on the form. I'm going to give them that one. We all know it's a felony because they lied on the form in order to get the FFL to submit it to NICS, where they got turned down. They had to lie. I don't know of an FFL in existence that is going to submit a 4473 to the NICS system that he knows is going to get turned down. Convicted felons are the single largest denial within the NICS system. And I would tell you that we're not normal. We love guns. I started shooting with the NRA when I was 11 years old. I love guns. I've had guns my entire life. I was a professional law enforcement officer for a portion of my life, and I carried a gun every single day. We love our guns. We love shooting sports. We love hunting. But we're not normal. The rest of America, if you look at the polls, and if you're going to believe them, and I have to take them a little bit at face value, are telling us that a significant percentage of the rest of society thinks that background checks are a good idea for buying and selling of guns. I have a hard time saying that it's not a good idea, especially whenever I know that last year there was 66,000 convicted felons that was dumb enough to walk into a gun shop and try to buy a gun.
How many got arrested and convicted?
Doesn't matter.
66.
The feds set the criteria for who gets prosecuted and who doesn't. Why haven't you gone to your state legislator and demanded a felony for trying to buy a gun in your state under false pretenses? One of the problems that we have is we do have some false positives. But here's the problem. A false positive is something you can fix. You can fix a false positive by simply saying, well, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. We'll fix it. Next time you won't have this problem. We can do that. Nobody promised you a perfect background check system any more than anybody promised you a perfect Second Amendment. So I think at this point you've really got two choices. You can do like they're doing out in Washington State right now, and I think Alan can reiterate that gun owners in Washington State right now are cringing at the thought of the ballot initiative that's fixing to come up. Or you can seize the day, gird your loins, and get in there and fight for the NICS system and the background check system that actually accomplishes what it is we all know we don't want, which is a bunch of criminals or crazy people running around with guns. It's up to us to help our legislators write the laws that we have to live under. And right now, on the issue of background checks, the only people that are whispering in their ear is Blomberg and Mothers Demand Action. They got a good argument. You want them to write the law, or you want to write the law for yourself? It's up to you guys. I'll be around. There's a lot more I got to say on this issue, but I think my time has just run out. Y'all have a good day, and thank you for listening.
Now I can see you. I'm going to cut mine a little short because we're running very late, and I want to try and get this back on schedule as much as possible. I really didn't want to spend a lot of time with you talking about background checks, because I think it's something we really need to address. What I'm going to do is just address what's happening in my state right now, and quite frankly, in some ways, our movement is to blame for it, which I'd like to spend a lot of time on, and maybe I'll be able to do that with you tomorrow when I wrap up at near the end. But in Washington State right now, because Congress did not act, and my state did not act any kind of background check whatsoever, the other side decided to file an initiative to the people, not to the legislature, not the places where we lobby or we can control some of who cast votes, but the public at large. We were smart enough knowing they were going to do it, because like you have on your desk, Dancing in Blood, Dave Workman in my book on our opponent's playbook, so to speak. We get a lot of information ahead of time that they're doing because we have plants in their organizations and other places to know what they're up to before they do it. They were going to file this initiative, and we knew what it was going to be like. We didn't have every word to it, but we knew where they were going to go. It's the most draconian background check in the country. So draconian that the provisions in it would never be considered by the United States Congress as an example. So we filed an initiative first. We're known as Initiative 591, they're known as 594. We're on the ballot first. We've raised $1.3 million. They're closing in on $8 million, mostly from a half a dozen billionaires. I don't have to name the names because they've been named here already today. First time on a ballot measure we're being outspent. Not just outspent, but 8 to 1. They don't even need to spend 8 to 1 to us. If they spend no money, they beat us. The public opinion polls you see showing 70, 80, 90% of people supporting background check are legitimate and they're real. And the worst part is when you go to sub-data on that, the people who support the background checks know they won't work. And they don't care. So when you tell them it doesn't stop criminals from getting a gun, it falls on deaf ears. They know it won't work. They don't care. They're for it anyway. Second point, if you ask them this background, is this gun control, we got to defeat it, including gun owners in general, they don't believe it's gun control. Because I can still have my gun, I can still get my gun. It falls on deaf ears. We do not have a real winning argument. So what we did in Washington State was, which unfortunately can't be duplicated in very many other states, is our initiative has two simple provisions to it. There's this 18 pages of very complicated regulations that make it illegal for me to hand you my gun for you to look at if we don't go to a gun dealer first and go through a background check. Okay, and that's what you're going to be dealing with, not just in my state, but next year it's going to be on the ballot in Nevada. In 2016, it's going to be on the ballot in Oregon and Arizona. And I don't know how anybody is going to beat it. And in Washington State, because we have a twist in our law, we filed an initiative that has two simple provisions. Provision 1, no state agency shall confiscate anybody's firearms without due process. Clause 2, no state agency shall force any background check that does not meet a uniform national standard, which is a total conflict with their initiative. Right now they're polling at 72, 74% yes. We're polling at 55% yes. If they both pass at the same time, it's a conflict, and they're both considered law, so to speak, and we're off to court to litigate. Our state legislature cannot change anything that passes by the people for a cycle of 2 years without a supermajority. And on guns, nobody gets a supermajority on anything, one way or the other. So we're into a long court battle. Hopefully if it takes 2 years, it resolves our problem. Hopefully the courts will say, kick it to the legislature to go do something, or say they're both valid, and the other one can't go into effect until it becomes the uniform national standard, which it never will. So we were very clever in how we did that. In some states you can't do that because the state constitution's mandated whoever gets the most votes wins no matter what. Ours does not say that. So we're going to have a pirate victory, hopefully, if the other side doesn't unload a few $1 million in the next 30 days on us and knock us down below 50%. And this is what we're facing. And we're going to face this. Just imagine, I want you to just think. If you lose, we already lost background checks in Colorado for the legislature, Western state, pro-gun. You lose by the people in Washington. You lose by a vote of the people in Nevada. You lose by a vote of the people in Oregon. You lose by a vote of the people in Arizona. And where do you think the other side is going to go? They have all the momentum in the world. And where do you think the politicians are going to go? They're going to run for cover. And the cover is not where we can't cover. Think about it.
Thank you very much. I hope you're at the reception and people can catch you there, which will be I'm losing my voice, I think, about 6:30. And I want to make a quick mention, Jenny, right there, resolutions. If you're on the resolution committee, you've got a notice. Talk to her about breakfast tomorrow morning and everything else. And if you have a resolution, please get it together and give it to Jenny so they can vote on it for the resolutions committee tomorrow morning. Now, I would like to welcome John Mott, who has, again, traveled onerously and diligently to get here. He will speak on one of the many topics which he is so